We're live. This is Tom with the Ketogenic Fasting Project, talking to my good buddy Kevin VanDorn. He's he's away out there in Florida. I'm on the other coast in California, and thought it'd be great to do a video with him because he's got a lot of good stuff going on. So, you want to introduce yourself a little bit there, Kevin?
Yeah, hey, I'm Kevin VanDorn, and so in my world, I've been doing keto since August of 2018. Was managed to turn my health around, and my wife has done the same. In my case, I've lost, as of yesterday, 78 pounds since August, which is pretty awesome. My wife has lost 55, and we'll talk more about some of that journey, but as we got into this about a month into it, and we noticed how much not just the fact that we were losing weight, but how much better we were feeling and everything, we decided that, hey, let's go ahead and make this an accountability thing. Let's go ahead and set up a YouTube channel. And that was where it started. We started with a group called KetoMojoGogo as our channel. Just basically so we could just get on at least once a week and talk about our status, how well we did the prior week. Were we successful? Did we lose any weight? It started with that, started really well. And then we opened Facebook groups to help other people do the same. And we'll talk more about that as well. But so those are, that's kind of where we started. I've had the pleasure of meeting a lot of other, some of the bigger names in the keto world now, and been able to talk to them. Interview them some, and it's been pretty exciting, a pretty accepting group. I'm really liking it a lot.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. It's been much more positive experience than I ever imagined.
Yeah, and now, we both kind of are edging towards carnivory as well. So I think that might be just a natural progression of this keto thing anyway, as we're learning more and more.
I've said that myself many times. It's like everybody wants somebody to be a purist, but I think people just kind of naturally start gravitating towards carnivory. Just there's something in us that's just how we're wired.
Yeah. So I'll go ahead and tell you some more of the story. So, all right. So in my case, my major complaint over the years has been, autoimmune. I was diagnosed with ankylosing spondylitis when I was 35. And rheumatoid arthritis and psoriasis arthritis all at the same time. And so that was about 17 years ago, right? How old am I? Yeah, 17 years ago. And that I'd had lots of pains before, but that ended up culminating because I got thrown from a horse and was not able to get up for weeks, right? I was literally on my back, right? Unable to move.
Yeah.
Things weren't getting any better. And the doctor said, well, hey, let's give you some steroids. And bam, it's like, oh, I'm all better. Oh, hallelujah. He goes, well, actually, I hate to tell you, but that's actually not good news. That means that you most likely have some autoimmune stuff going on. And sure enough, went to the rheumatologist, and that's when they did all the blood work and all of that. And so even within that, there was a lot of depression that hit once you get that diagnosis, and then you realize that you're going to probably be on biologics the rest of your life type thing. So, I struggled through that. And one of the things, I've been on Humira for 15 years. And one of the side effects of Humira is not one that it does help with the pain, but it also helps put on the weight. So I put on, well over 100 pounds in the process. I can't just blame the Humira. Obviously, I'm an American eating the sad American diet for a while.
Yeah.
And then in 2011, we decided that, hey, my brother gave me a book called Born to Run. And so we, he started taking up running, and I started taking up running as well. And at the same time, I went vegetarian. So from 2011 through 2014, I was a vegetarian runner. And I did lose some weight. I lost 30 pounds initially. And then I kept getting injured and being unable to run. And then the weight would come back, and I would lose 10 pounds, and the weight would come back. And so I was still pretty obese. I mean, even, I was running 10Ks and 5Ks and running 25 to 30 miles every week, but still not really losing the weight. And my ability to move was getting worse and worse. My joints were wearing out from running. My ankles and legs were swelling up considerably. So that just was pretty discouraging in itself. So even though I was, pretty much killing myself to try to get in shape and eating a whole foods, plant-based diet on top of it and not getting the results and the pain getting worse and worse, we actually, we almost kind of gave up, right, in 2015, 2016, because it's like, this isn't working. We're working ourselves really hard.
Yeah.
And we're not seeing the benefits of it. So the weight again picks back to, hey, it's not working anyway. I might as well eat how I want to eat.
Yeah.
That's where we were. We went through a couple of, a tough year with my daughter moving back in from the UK. So again, more stress. But then talking to my brother again, he's been kind of a leader for me in a lot of ways. He was doing low carb and had lost 80 pounds.
Nice.
His journey. So it was great. He wasn't doing necessarily keto. He was just doing more of an Atkins type thing. And to be honest, my keto version is probably more Atkins-like than anything. So he did that, but then he had a heart attack.
Oh, no.
Oh, so I was like, he pretty much, it was all the damage he'd done over the years because he was just like me. He liked to eat the whole thing.
Was it congestive heart failure?
No, he had the Widowmaker.
Oh.
Yeah, and he's okay, by the way. He's great. And he has since gone back on keto and is doing fantastic and everything. He's doing really well. But so it was a pretty stressful year, but about that time, so after all of that, then last year, I can't even remember exactly what I saw first. Oh no, I lied. I know what it was. Magic pill. So we saw the magic pill in August of last year, and I think we had to watch it 3 times to really grasp what it was. Everything.
I can imagine. I saw it after I'd read a lot of books and been on keto for a while. So, but I can imagine trying to take all that in an hour and a half or whatever it was. It seems like some sort of hocus pocus. And then, there's so much to unpack there that is the opposite of what we're meant to believe. Right.
And that's what's cool now is I actually interact on Twitter with Tim Noakes and a lot of these people that were in there, and also even the Fathead movie, Tom Naughton, interacting with him some now too. So it's kind of cool. But so within that, and what was most appealing about that was there was the autistic girl in there that was had all the seizures. It's like, whoa, we've got grandkids that are autistic. If it can, not only might we lose weight, but it might also help, improve their lives considerably.
Sure.
So that was what was so appealing. And so that's what we're really, really shooting for, is not just our own improved health, but if we can improve the lives of our family around us, that would be ideal. And so that's what happened, right? So we started, obviously as a guy, as you're probably aware, guys lose weight easier and faster. So I did lose initially like 20 pounds in the first month. Was doing really well. And so we started our YouTube channel, KetoMojoGogo. And then we said, okay, well, we got the channel. Let's go ahead and start a Facebook page and a Facebook group for KetoMojoGogo, and then let them feed each other, right? And started the Twitter account. So just they basically feed on each other. We create a video, we post it on Facebook. We do on Facebook, we post it on YouTube. We have the page that kind of manages it all. And then another month into it, just kind of like out of hand, what really happened is I got really sick, right? I was feeling good because I was on, I've been on biologicals and I've been on all these medicines. I was feeling pretty good, but then I got really sick, and the sickness was a upper respiratory infection. So I got sick, got off the meds for a bit, got better, and then got back on the meds, and immediately, bam, it hit me again. Got a even worse upper respiratory infection. So I'm like, wow, what's going on here? Is keto messing up my immune system? And eating this way, and I could think about it like, wait a minute, I'm on autoimmune suppressant drugs.
Yeah,
which is what Humira is.
sure.
So, so I talked to my doctor and I said, hey, look, I need to, if you don't mind, I'm just going to step off the Humira for a while and see what happens. And she said, yeah, that's fine. Not a problem. I mean, and then come to find out that one of the common side effects of Humira is upper respiratory infection, right? I had never had it before, but just by changing my diet, all of a sudden it was like it was making the Humira work better than it ever had before. Right. So now my immune system was actually suppressed, where before it had been just fine. It wasn't going to be a problem. But now my immune system wasn't like attacking my joints as it way it was used to, even with the Humira. Now all of a sudden I stopped taking medicine and I feel great. Right. So it's like, well, So then that prompted me to start checking out and saying, well, is anybody else having this mysterious effect of all of their pains disappearing from doing a ketogenic diet? And lo and behold, this is not an uncommon occurrence. There are lots of people that seem to have this impact. So that prompted the next Facebook group, which is Keto for Autoimmune Diseases. Now that's over, I think, it's at 300 people.
Nice.
It's doing pretty well.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So it's growing. It was initially, I had it as an open group, and then people asked, and that was growing really fast. It was growing like 50 people a week, and people asked me to close it because they wanted to post their lab results. So I said, okay, yeah, we'll go and do it. And so the growth has slowed down a little bit since we closed it, but I think that's fine because I can only handle so many people anyway. Dealing with those issues, because we definitely treat it like a support group. So we are actually helping a lot of people in the process. So if we were getting like 1,000 people a week, like some of the other groups, that would be very hard to manage. So I think the rate that we're growing is actually just fine. It's fine. And then that next thing leads to, I said, well, we went back and watched the magic pill again and thought about that. And I just kind of threw out there on Twitter. I said, hey, would anybody be interested in, a keto for autism? And I think that's where you and I hooked up, said, oh, hey, I've got an autistic carnivore. And I said, hey, that's great. I think that's super too. I just don't want to, I don't want to pigeonhole it too much down to a very specific diet. So ketogenic is a little bit broader umbrella. I mean, maybe I could have even went low carb, high fat for autism. But I think ketones is important because the ketones is what fuels the brain. Because you could be on a low carb diet and not be in ketosis, right? So
that's true.
So I think that's kind of the reason we landed where we did, and it's growing really slow, but the people are valuable, or they're definitely helping each other for sure.
Yeah, when I started Autistic Carnivores, I thought there was going to be like 12 of us, maybe. And then it turned out there was quite a few out there. I mean, it's not a huge group, but there's far more people interested in it than I ever imagined.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the story where we are, and and I get really humbled every day, just because I'm like you. I'm watching a lot of this content, whether it be from Ivor Cummins or Bart Kay or Amy Berger, Dr. Ken Berry, all of these people who are really bright and really know their stuff.
Yeah.
And I feel like I really don't know that I'm even worthy to have a conversation with these people, because I obviously don't have their credentials and everything. But what I do have is both my wife and I, we have a success story behind us, right? Pretty rapid weight loss, pretty rapid turnaround. She still has her autoimmune issues with her Hashimoto's, but her lupus has cleared.
Wow.
So from that respect, we had the ability to see us from where we started off. You can go back and watch our videos where we were two very morbidly obese people down to now I'm just obese.
Well, I'm a long ways from lean myself, but I have to say I've lost quite a bit of body fat and put on quite a bit of muscle, so I'm grateful for it. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, actually, I looked at it today. I'm 9 pounds away from being overweight.
No, well,
so
that's close.
That's getting close.
Yeah.
So no, those are a lot of really cool benefits that we've come out of it. Again, like you said, you're not as lean as you want to be, but weight loss really isn't the most important thing. It's right. It's our improved health.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning, you can lose a bunch of body fat pretty easy, but then there's a certain amount of just stubborn weight that on one hand, my form has changed. I've lost probably 6 inches off my waist or something like that. And I look different, and I continue to change. So I know something's going on, and I definitely am able to do a lot more. The only exercise I really like is lifting weights, and I'm just kind of going whole hog in that direction and not worrying about the rest of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's, we all have our own journeys too, right? I mean, I think, in my case, I used to run, right? And that didn't do much for me other than make me hurt. Trying to outrun that, that bad diet wasn't doing me any good. So I'm pretty happy with the way I'm doing it now, which, occasionally I'll do some, high intensity interval training. I'll do some, basically I've got some stretch bands. So I'll do, some strength training in that way, and then maybe some knee push-ups right now. But the main part is getting my body fat down. So as I start building muscle, you really can actually see the muscle. Getting rid of that atrophy that I've had over the years, even though I was not necessarily lazy. It just still you couldn't maintain it. You talk about change too. So Sunday, and I posted this on Twitter and on Facebook. I ran to a former colleague from work. His name is Will, at the grocery store. So I'm tootling around Walmart, and I see him, and I pat him on the back, and he turns around and looks at me, didn't know who I was. So this is a guy I worked with for 2 years every day, face to face. And he didn't know who I was. And it didn't even dawn on me that I had changed that much since the last time I had seen him. I'm like, I'm me. And I'm like, he goes, wait a minute, you're Kevin? I go, yeah. He goes, oh my God, what how did you lose all that weight? And so I've got my grocery cart with me. I pointed down on my grocery cart. I said, like that. And he goes, so meat and coffee? I'm like, well, pretty much. And maybe a non-starchy veg here and there, but pretty much. And he's like, well, simple enough, starting tomorrow. And
it's funny. I heard Phil Escott tell almost exactly that same story in a video I was watching earlier today. Met an old colleague in a grocery store. Same thing, pointing at the cart,
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that. I mean, that's probably the easiest, keto convert I've ever had. It's like, me, look there, boom. And because I've been big for a long time, right? So I'm looking at my old profile pictures from work. I've been at this company for almost 5 years now, and like, oof, yeah, definitely looked a lot different for sure. Even the last customer I went to, because they send our pictures to them who's coming, I'm telling them, they probably didn't even know who I was. So, but yeah, it is really it's a life-changing thing. And again, I'm still, compared to a lot of people, I'm obviously new into it, but I feel like I'm a fast learner, so it does help. And I, like I said, I was running 25 to 30 miles a week and eating a vegetarian diet. I take things seriously when I do it, right? I don't do things halfway. If I'm going to do it, I do it, right? And it's the same way I handle my job, right? When it comes time to buckle down and be serious about what I do for a living, that's what I do. And that's the way I handle it. That was what was so frustrating before. Was like, here I am doing everything I can, calories in, calories out, and it's just not doing it for me. So hallelujah to find a way to, seemingly effortlessly lose the weight just by eating the proper human diet.
Yeah. So I take it you don't take the Humira anymore, huh?
No, not since September. Haven't taken it since September. And it's kind of weird because you actually forget about how much pain you were in.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were talked about how you couldn't turn a doorknob, right? How much pain you were in. I finally had an episode the other night, and I don't know. I had some Brussels sprouts that the day before. I'm not going to say it was because of the Brussels sprouts, right? Right. But I mean, that's the only thing that I had a lot of them, right? I didn't just have a couple of them. I had a lot of them because they were good. They were roasted in garlic and bacon. I mean, they were good. So I probably overindulged, but maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but that's the only thing I can think of. But I had an episode that night where my neck locked up and I couldn't move. And I'm like, oh my gosh, is it coming back? The depression hit the whole thing. I got up for the first time I've taken any leave even in 4 months. Leave, woke up in the morning and it was gone. I'm like, whoa. Again, I don't know what was that.
I knew there was a reason I hated Brussels sprouts.
Well, I didn't know I liked them until about a year ago when I had them, roasted with some bacon and actually they taste pretty good that way. I've had them, earlier, but I didn't have as many as I had that day, man. I mean, we made a whole bag of them and I'm like, well, these are pretty good. They're pretty low carb, no big deal. Again, it may have not even been that. I had been working out in the yard the day before too, so it may have been related to that. But I had done that before too, right? So that wasn't. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I do a lot of self-experimenting, and it's really hard to tell exactly when things are working or are not working. It's rarely clear. So.
But it was that. But I will say those were the last vegetables I ate. As a result of that, and that was what that was Thursday of last week. Because it's like, all right, well, if that, I don't definitely want to go back there. I don't really want to go back to the level of pain that I had forgotten about. It kind of reminded me because, the one thing that used to drive me crazy about Humira was, I'd take it every other week, right? Inject myself with it. About 6 or 7 days past the shot, that would happen, right? My pain level would start. Was really strange because you would go through these ebbs and flows of pain, right? And when you're hitting the high points of pain, it's like, is it even worth taking the Humira because these cycles are worse than if it were just steady state, right? So then you go, okay, well, I've got gels and I've got methotrexate and I got all these other things that you're taking and really they're just poisoning your body to just kind of cover up your pain symptoms. You're putting gels on and TENS units and everything else to try to mask all of that. I haven't had to use those since, except for that one incident. And I have to remember, I still have a lot of damage in my body, right? That stuff didn't just, shrink and go away just because I'm eating better. I mean, I'm not inflamed, but there's still the joint damage was still done. I have to kind of keep that in mind.
I think if you eat enough meat, some of that's going to fix itself. That's my theory.
I mean, it could be. It could be. So that's another theory that I'd like to kind of talk about is, does meat actually heal, or is it the fact that you've stopped putting toxins into your body that you're getting a chance to recover?
I think it's both. I think
there's
2 things, maybe 3 things that are going on. You don't have as many of the plant toxins or processed food toxins or whatever. Then you lower the inflammation, and then you put an abundance of the material in your body that it needs.
Yeah, the cholesterol and the protein that it needs. Yeah.
Oh, collagen for you, build cartilage and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's very, very probably true. But so it's all all works together. But I mean, stopping ingesting those toxins, especially that processed food and the seed oils, I think just makes the instantaneous difference. And then on top of that, we eat nutrient dense food with the right building blocks. It's definitely can't hurt for sure.
I agree.
Yeah, indeed. So what's next, bud? What's the next question?
Well, I mean, at this point, what is your your essential dietary philosophy at the moment?
All right, so we started off, again with the magic pill was where we started off with. So we started off with the traditional, what everybody else does, keto. The old macros, the 5% carbs, 20%. I can't even remember because I don't follow them anymore, right?
Right.
And 75% fat, right? So that's where we started, and we did have some success with that. And then we ran across Dr. Westman's information, and he is old school Atkins, pretty much, maybe a little bit modified. Actually, I think he wrote the new Atkins book, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe he did.
Yep. And then reading Dr. Finney and Jeff Volek's book on the art and science of low carb. Matter of fact, there it is. So with that philosophy, so I've adopted that philosophy, which really is there's really no such thing as keto macros. There really is only keeping your carbs extremely low. And with Dr. Westman, he's had 60,000 patients come through his clinics.
Man.
98% are completely off insulin. Most of them within a few days, or within a few weeks at the worst. And what his study, he's also does clinical trials. So what he found was that 100% of people are in ketosis if they stay below 20 grams of carbs a day. 100%. If you go up to 30 grams, and then, by the way, he does total, not net. That's net nonsense because, labels are labels and they lie. So if you're 30 grams, about, I think 75% of the people will be in ketosis consistently. And if you go up to 50, about half the people, 50% of people are in ketosis. And of course, then you've got your outliers, people that are, your athletes and everything else. They might be able to eat as many as 150 grams and be in ketosis, but that ain't me. I think Danny Vega says he can eat 150 grams a day and be in ketosis. Good for him. He's a super athlete, so he has that. But in my case, I abused carbs in my younger life, so I have revoked my carb privilege. The way I look at it, and I think I'm just so insulin resistant and hyperinsulinemic that I am going to be condemned to staying below 20 grams of carbs and eating ribeyes every day.
You poor thing.
Hey, somebody's got to do it. Or ground beef or ground lamb or lamb chops or whatever. But it's definitely going to be red meat based for me.
So what were your carbs of choice?
Well, so when I was a vegetarian, I was eating lots of legumes, right? Chickpeas, lentils, and rice. That was my staple because, that's what they told us, right?
Sure.
Eat the grains, eat the high protein vegetables. Can't imagine why my inflammation was so terrible. So a lot of that, and then those were it. And of course, I'd eat a little tofu because you were supposed to. I'd pretend to like kale. Would eat that stuff. The leafy, and so that was a lot of it. And then of course, when I failed, I was just like, okay, well, screw it. I'm going back to pizza. After in the last year or so because. It didn't seem to make a difference. And of course, I did gain more weight when I did that. There's no doubt. The a vegetarian diet is, incrementally better than a sad diet, but it is better. So then when I didn't try so hard, of course, I gained even more weight. But so that was my go-to carbs were not the good stuff later. The later stuff, like, okay, well, I'm gonna eat carbs. I'm gonna eat carbs. Give me some pie. Give me some, pastries, those type of things. And I'll be the first to admit, even when I was trying to do a whole food plant-based, I was still sneaking the pastry here or there, just because the cravings are just crazy, right? No doubt about it. I am a carb addict, and I can start off, the Carb Addicts Anonymous. I mean, that was definitely me. And that's also another reason that I need to stay below 20 grams of carbs per day, because if I go to 50, I'll be at 150 before I know it.
Really?
That's just me. So it's total restriction to me is freedom, because if I stray, I will stray. My brother found this out too. He's got the same issue. He stays with us sometimes here in the wintertime, because he's got an RV and he comes and visits us when it's warm. Part of the time he's out there your way. He goes out and hangs out in the Antelope Valley.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's got, that's kind of where we were from.
Oh really?
Yeah, we lived out there. So he goes out there and visits some other family, but he got out there and he got off track a bit, and he put on 20 pounds and noticed his blood pressure went back up. And so, he comes back here and it's like, okay, that's it. I can't stray either. And so that's kind of the way we look at it, that we are probably a little bit, we've revoked our own privileges of being able to enjoy a carbohydrate lifestyle, but it's okay. I mean, I'm just fine. If I never eat another donut again, it ain't gonna kill me.
Yeah.
I can eat delicious, meat. And if I want to, I can, have vegetables on occasion and be just fine with it. And be much healthier and happier. That's all that really matters in my case.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good. Yeah. What's interesting is when you look at some of the so-called low carb studies that were done, probably by a lesser known specialist, they would consider like 200 or 150 grams of carbohydrates a low carbohydrate diet.
Right. That's amazing. Yeah. I've been kind of ribbing Dr. Joel Kahn on Twitter lately, because one of the studies he put out was a study of a low carb diet that I think 44.2 or 44.8% of the calories was considered low carb. Like, on what universe is that low carb? I mean, that's pretty close to the standard American diet. I mean, maybe a little better, but I mean, and the problem is it's a observational study on using, surveys. Everybody lies on surveys. Yeah. So how many carbs have you eaten in the last, year? Oh yeah, I'm doing great. I don't even that. And even in like my daughter's case up in Washington right now, like, oh yeah, we're cutting back, and yet, they're still giving kids cereal and, the Kit Kat bar here and there. And it's like, well, you guys are cutting back. I will give you that, but you're definitely not in the threshold of what I would consider in the area where you're actually going to be benefiting yourself yet, until you actually take the plunge and just go for it. But
yeah, well, I'm reading that book right now, or listening to that book about vaccines did not cause Rachel's autism by Timothy Hotez, I think it is. He's a vaccine specialist, but he keeps talking about the food that they eat. And his autistic daughter, she basically eats Cheerios all the time.
Right.
And then he's talking about the crap that he eats. And I'm like, you think you'd be smarter than that, with all your degrees. So
yeah, well, we're conditioned, right? I mean, he's in his degrees, what is he being taught, right? I mean, that is very difficult conditioning to overcome, because by God, they're telling us we need to eat these grains. We need to eat this fruit and vegetables. This is the stuff that's going to make us healthy.
mm-hmm.
And so you really can't blame them. I mean, I really get it, because I mean, I was there too.
Yeah, well, you talk about Joel Kahn. I mean, he really suffers from the same bad information that we all suffered from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's kind of why I kind of rib him, because I'm like, he keeps pushing these observational survey-based studies. And I mean, I get it. I mean, we don't have a whole lot, but that cannot be your proof, right? I mean, because now we've got randomized control trials, right? We have Verta Health has done so much with Dr. Finney, and we have Dr. Westman who's done so much via Duke, where they have literally brought people down into ketosis and kept them there for a long period of time and did the trials on them. Now, one of the things he came back with me goes, well, the skeleton in Verta's closet is that, people on a low carb diet, they don't live as long or they have a higher mortality rate. So I went ahead and dug into it and I said, well, all right, again, this is based on an observational survey study that you're using this to make these assumptions. That's just really it's not a fair thing to do. I mean, because you're trying to overarch an actual randomized control trial with an observational survey-based study. You're basically leading with hypothesis and making that your proof. And then you know what his response was to me? Why are you so hostile? I'm like, I don't think that's hostile. I think I'm just asking you a question. So then I had to respond with all the things that I highlighted as being like, for one thing, the study that he highlighted did not even say that low carb had any effect on cardiovascular health or anything. As a matter of fact, it said the opposite. It had no impact. So then I put the John Travolta meme from Pulp Fiction looking both ways at these things over that as a picture. Because it is. It's like, where exactly are you seeing this? It's like having a headline that doesn't agree with the story. That's what we see. But anyway, it's all friendly. I really don't ever want to directly insult these people, because eventually these are going to be our friendly ex-vegans. Eventually they will be.
Yeah, and I think that's starting to change a little bit. Bart had a little interaction with Garth.
Dr.
Garth? Yeah, I forgot his last name all of a sudden. But I expected there to be a little more fireworks, and it was actually really reasonable. They didn't really get a chance to get into things too much, but he sounded like he really just wanted to have a continuing dialogue, and it was all very civilized.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, matter of fact, I guess they're going to put this on a regular basis, maybe once a week or once every couple of weeks. They're going to continue doing that. I think that's great. It seemed like he was. I don't think that Dr. Garth was fully prepared to. I don't know. Bart is pretty knowledgeable, right? So I don't think that he is quite prepared for, one, the civility, and two, the level of knowledge that he had, because he started to go down the path and then he excused himself. Did you see that? Oh, I got to go back to work, because I think that he was starting to see that I'm not going to be able to just railroad through this like a lot of other interviews I've done. And that's okay.
Well, and there was a lot of podcasts where Joel Kahn would come on. I think probably he was on Rogan, and I know he was on Human Performance Outliers and stuff like that. And that, they had some pretty civilized conversations, and everybody just kind of put their own facts forward. But now it seems like that's kind of deteriorated as far as Dr. Kahn goes, which is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah. Well, some of it's tit for tat. I know that him and Dr. Sean Baker kind of, they shoot across the bow at each other sometimes, and that's I think it's only good fun.
Yeah. All right. So on an average day, what are you eating these days?
These days, all right. So in the morning, it's eggs and sausage or eggs and bacon. Actually, I'd say in the morning. That's like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then like around 7 o'clock. It'll probably be either a ribeye, a New York strip, or a lamb chop, and occasionally a veg. And that pretty boring for a lot of people, I would think, but it's actually very satisfying.
You're not eating alligators and anacondas down there in Florida?
I haven't caught any anacondas yet. I have had. I don't really care for alligator. I tried it. It's just kind of fishy. It's tough. And, not much to it. But no, I mean, I like my red meat now. I'm used to be a big chicken guy, right? I love chicken, but now it's like I eat chicken and it's like, it's okay. No, it's just doesn't. It's not as satisfying. So.
Yeah, I think most of those chickens just don't get very well fed, so they're not very satisfying to us.
Well, I mean, we eat them before. There's a reason you eat chicken. It's because it's bland. And that's the reason that so much of the fake meat is just chicken flavored, right? Because it's not a hard profile to hit.
It's
And
pretty
so
low.
yeah, it's just like, yeah, okay, it's chickenish. And there's that. But now it's like, I wouldn't touch that stuff, that vegan meat with a 10-foot pole.
I was in the supermarket the other day and I saw some of that Beyond Meat and I was reading and actually took a picture of the label and stuff and I was looking at it. I picked up this package and it weighed nothing. I was
Right.
like, wow, you're just going to pay a fortune for nothing. You're going to be so hungry after you eat this. And then I put it down and I saw this girl who was watching me look at it. She comes rushing over and she picks it up and she's waving to her boyfriend. Oh, look, they have the fake meat. We got to get some of this and try it. And I was like, oh, man, I should have left it. I should have left it laying down there in the cooler and not picked it up because now somebody's going to poison themselves with this stuff.
Well, they were looking for it anyway, so it's all right. Yeah. Well, I saw somebody on Twitter. They did actually a review and they cooked it up and ate it. And so they said they took it out and it's like they put it on the pan and it's orange instead of pink. So they're trying to mimic the meat color. It's the wrong color. Said it was yeasty. It tasted like kind of the texture of Spam. I'm like, is it even worth, I mean, they're definitely not targeting vegans necessarily because vegans don't necessarily want to eat meat. And they've already admitted that their target audience are meat eaters, I guess maybe guilty feeling meat eaters. They're feeling bad about, they can say it's plant-based. They can say, okay, I feel better about eating it. But it definitely doesn't sound satisfying and it's extremely expensive.
Mm.
So I haven't even actually seen it out in the stores. I'm not that I'm looking for it, but I haven't seen it in the stores yet that I've seen. I don't think it's that big here in Florida right now.
So do you check ketones or your glucose levels regularly?
I do check my glucose regularly, only because I'm a geek. I can remember when I was diagnosed with diabetes, type 2 diabetes. I hated checking my blood glucose, right? Because I knew the numbers weren't going to be good. And, it's that feeling of dread, right? You just hate doing it. And so I would hardly do it. Now, sometimes I'll do it 2 or 3 times a week just because, or sometimes even if I want to do some testing, I want to eat something and see what it does. I might do it 2 or 3 times a day. And
Yeah.
And usually it's between 85 or 90 is really stable, which is great because it used to be like 120, 130. Now, within a week of, doing keto, it dropped down into under 90 and stayed there. And then I went also and had the last time I had my blood work done in January, I also had them do an insulin test, which was still pretty high. It was still 10. So I'm still pretty hyperinsulinemic. So that's something I'm going to keep checking every quarter. See, if that drops. I
haven't had my insulin resistance checked, and I've been wondering about that. As somebody I don't know. You sound like you weren't that heavy that long, but I was heavy for a long time, and I often wonder if that sort of metabolic derangement, it takes a long time to undo.
No, I was heavy for a long time.
Were you?
Yeah, I mean, so I got out of the Navy in 1989, and I was, I think, 160. 5 minutes later, I was over 200. I mean, well, I worked in an engine room. It was 140 degrees down there, so it was kind of hard to gain weight. So as soon as I got out and I changed jobs and wasn't working in that kind of heat anymore, and eating better food, richer food, not Navy food, and immediately blew up. And so now I weigh less than I've weighed since I think 2002. So I've been heavy for far too long, and I've fought with weight as a kid too, right? I would go up and down and up and down. When I started playing football, I was in great shape. A year later, I blew up. So I mean, I've been yo-yoed. I'm like worse than Oprah over the years, as far as that goes. But now it's nice to have it off and not even it be a concern. Matter of fact, I lost 2 inches since January around my waist.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's not just the scale. And a lot of people, they say, well, don't worry about the scale. But for me, I guess because I've been successful with the scale, you do realize that, within a given day, you might, change 3 to 4 pounds just because of water weight, but it has been steadily moving in the right direction. So the scale's okay with me. It also keeps me accountable, right? If I know if it's going to start creeping up, I'll keep an eye on it. I don't foresee any problem with that the way I'm eating right now, because I have trouble eating more than a pound of meat a day. I know you guys kill it, but if you're lifting a lot of weights, you're consuming a lot more calories than I am. So,
yeah, well, I'm a little bit bigger guy too, and I still, I'm like at maybe 2 pounds typically, and sometimes that's a bit of a struggle. So
the struggle to get that much down, or
yeah,
I know it's so satiating. I mean, it really is. Matter of fact, today I actually deviated a little bit, and I wanted to try some mackerel. So I had a little bit of that, like between meals, and that instantly satiated me, man. It was like I took 2 bites and I'm like, oh, I can't eat anymore. I don't know if it was like I didn't really like it that much, or if it's just, it tasted okay, but it just immediately just turned that switch, and I'm like, okay, well, I gave the rest of the dogs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right. So, you doing any sort of exercise these days?
Oh yeah. Wait, let me finish answering your question. And so you asked about ketones. And so initially, when I first started out, I did get the P strips and was checking that just because again, a geek, I wanted to see how it goes. And I was really never able to get above a small ketosis. And I think, again, that's partly because I am so insulin resistant. It can only go so far. But, then come to find out, it doesn't really matter how deep you are in ketosis. There's no data saying that if you are 0.5 versus 1.5, that you're burning any more fat at any of this. As long as you're in, you're in. So I stopped stressing about that. My blood work when I did it in January, it showed I was in trace ketosis, not even that much, but obviously I'm doing something right because the weight's been dropping just fine. So that's part of the philosophy as well. Is the goal really isn't ketosis; it's fat loss, right? So I'm not really necessarily worrying about whether it be a number on a meter or color on a pea stick. Am I getting results? And I can still kind of taste the metallic taste in my mouth, most of the time. So I know that, okay, well, that's the acetone that's burning, so I'm in ketosis, so that's not a problem. So that finishes that answer. And then as far as exercise go, about a couple times a week I'm doing a little bit of cardio with the HIIT, the high intensity interval training, and then doing some resistance training with the stretch bands, and doing a little bit of now I've just started some push-ups. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. Nothing over the top. As a matter of fact, the people that I've dealt with, as I say, especially if you're first starting off in keto or carnivore, you're changing the way you're eating and not eating those carbs, I'd probably recommend backing off for a while, because, for one thing, you're going to feel like crap. You're not going to have the performance capability that you normally do at first while you're transitioning. And I think I was reading somewhere where for the high performance athletes, it can take up to 6 months to really, get to be fat adapted to where you are at your prime, performance level.
Yeah, and I think some of the more recent studies, I can't remember who was talking about it, but they were saying that they were, testing these top tier athletes like the Tour de France bicycle guys, and they were still seeing changes, epigenetic changes, more than 12 months after fat adaptation. So
yeah, I could see it. I can see it. And then, but again, you're constantly getting better and better. I think we'll say that Danny Vega was at the Tampa event, and he was talking about, because I don't know if you followed him or not at all.
No,
but he's got the keto fueled family, or the fat fueled family. So his kids are doing keto and the whole thing, and he was went to University of Florida. Was a football player. He's a weightlifter. He's a big, super performance athlete.
What was his name?
Danny Vega, Vega. Yeah, and he's a local Tampa guy here.
Okay.
He was talking about the team that did the rowing I think they set the world record for rowing from San Francisco to Hawaii. They were all on ketosis, doing keto, and they did just fantastic because they weren't having to stop to eat. They were constantly just able to keep their slow burning energy good. So they weren't like sprinting so much, but they were just kind of keeping their pace going because they could.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, why don't you talk a little more about your Facebook groups? Of course, very interested to hear what's going on in keto for autism.
Yeah, well, the keto for autism is really lately it's been kind of quiet, but I did manage to connect with a naturopath doctor in Australia, in Queensland, Australia. As a matter of fact, I will be talking to her in a couple months. She wants to do an interview, and she has offered herself up as a resource on the site. So if people have questions, with their kids or whatever, she's more than willing to help out in that realm. And she's been great at answering some questions. And I posted her studies that she's put out there as announcements, so people can look through those. And again, a lot of it, and I think you've seen, is people are like, hey, I've got kids. How do I help them transition? Or there may be adults and that they're really resistant to, losing their carbs. How do we do this? So, a lot of that is just kind of common sense, right? So there's no way in the world you should be jumping from, 300 or 400 carbs a day to 20. That would be nuts, right? And you shouldn't ask your family to do that either. So maybe some of the things you might do would be, hey, let's just cut out sugary drinks first of all, right? Maybe don't have cereal 3 times a day. Try to come down to, eating real foods, right? Eating, fatty cuts of meat and some vegetable. And try with that, and then, change up what you're snacking on, right? Instead of snacking on Twinkies, maybe snack on some nuts and cheese and things of that nature that are just kind of practical things that people can do, and don't try to do it all at once, right? Start off with, change from drinking soft drinks to maybe water with lemon and maybe a little Splenda or something like that. Just something that, gives you that little bit of sweet, but without all those calories and extra crap that you're doing. And then eventually just keep moving it down the curve until you get to a point where, you arrive. And then maybe, especially for kids that are a little bit more metabolically healthy, maybe they don't need to go all the way down to 20. Maybe they would be benefit. Maybe if they got some exogenous ketones in their case. It's not something that I do for myself, but for people that, are trying to heal their brain or deal with cognitive issues, that might be something that you try. I'm definitely not opposed to it in that case. For people that are looking for fat loss, I'm like, I think that's probably not the best deal because, you got this order of our operations thing going on, right? Sugar and carbs and alcohol are going to burn first. And then as far as ketones go, if you're bringing in exogenous ketones, well, guess which ketones are going to get burnt first? Not the ones that are in your body that have to be generated. So, it's just kind of a, commonsensical thing. It just depends on what your goals are and how you approach that.
Yeah. So how about do you have much activity in the keto for autoimmune? Have you heard a lot of miracle stories, people with arthritis and stuff in there?
Yeah, actually, we do. We hear a lot of people that have made major turnarounds. One lady, Manta Dunaway, she has her own multiple sclerosis group, and she connected with us. And yeah, she's had complete turnaround in her multiple sclerosis, which is just amazing. You might, and I haven't connected with Dr. Terry Walls, but she's another one that used a paleo keto. She has her own protocol, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. A lot of people have had great success, but even the ones that haven't they still have had great success in turning their type 2 diabetes around, right? That seems to be, there's nobody in our group that's following the protocol that hasn't had that result. So, and I've got a good friend from high school that she's she was one of our early adopters and joined on. She hasn't lost a whole lot of weight. She's lost 15 pounds in like 5 months, but her A1C has dropped. She's feeling great. And so, those are all great benefits. And that's why I keep, hammering home is like, your health comes first. The weight loss is obvious. Sometimes it's a happy side effect, but the fact is that you definitely want to lose the weight first. And she's got Hashimoto's, and she's got, she's on a lot of medications, which definitely hinder your weight loss progress for sure. My wife hit that wall herself, right? She started to lose a little weight, and then she stalled for about 2 months. And then she went and she had her blood work done, and her thyroid, came back at 100, which I think abnormal is 6. And so she, basically her thyroid had shut down. So they adjusted her Synthroid, and that, I don't know if she's been back and tested yet, but she started losing weight, right? So she hasn't had her blood work again yet, but the fact that she was then that kicked off her ability to lose weight again is important. So it doesn't cure everything, right? But sometimes it unlocks the things that you need to do to be able to lose weight and get healthy, because she had been on thyroid medicine for almost as long as I was diagnosed with arthritis, and her weight was going up every year. So even being on the thyroid medicine itself wasn't doing it. It was just the changing up of her diet, getting off the carbohydrates, that seemed to be the key for her, and also to have her medicine adjusted. But yeah, so lots of good stories in the Keto for Autoimmune. I mean, that's probably definitely our busiest group. Our flagship group, the KetoMojoGogo group, since it's non-specific, it probably doesn't get as much traffic. It's just a diet group. But when you throw the weight of disease on top of it, and getting that kind of interest, that is really what seems to drive it home.
Yeah, it's definitely something for people to gather around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we find these commonalities. I mean, we all want to lose weight, but when it makes a difference in how you feel and the pain that you're in, it's hard to poo-poo that. And that's kind of what frustrates me at times, is these discussions on Twitter or wherever we're at, and people are saying, well, that doesn't work, it's going to kill you. I'm like, but you don't understand. 8 months ago, I was basically almost, to the point of being an invalid, right? I could not get out of bed in the morning, many mornings, and to the point where now I feel like a normal person. 8 months ago, I was on these harsh medicines, and my blood pressure was crazy, and I was type 2 diabetic. Now I'm not. So, I mean, I don't care what your observational study says. My results are greater than your poorly executed observational studies. And so that's kind of where that passion comes from, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm the same way.
Yeah. So I know, you say, well, it's just anecdotal. People say it's just anecdotal. Well, maybe so, but when I have 300 people in my autoimmune group giving me the same stories over and over again, you're a little bit beyond anecdotal at that point.
Yeah, no, I think that's the power of the story of the individual, because the stories are amassing to numbers that greatly exceed the numbers in the studies,
Right. Yeah. And you throw that on top of that, the randomized controlled trials that the doctors are doing now. Dr. D'Agostino is, he wrote the Salt Fix, and he's a researcher here at the University of South Florida here in Tampa, where I'm at. So this is Tampa's kind of becoming a keto mecca in a lot of ways because there's a lot of studies being done there.
Yeah, I think that's the Nickel Antonio.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Agostino.
yeah, yeah. I gotta
Yeah,
mix
that Italian guy.
those guys, you know. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, but yeah. So I mean, it's amazing stuff that they're doing here,
yeah.
and I'm a believer in it so much that I went ahead and invested in Dr. Westman's Heal Clinics.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that is, you know, basically he started off at Duke doing his obesity studies there, and then he got to a point he opened his own clinic, and then he has a 6-month waiting list, right, for people
Wow.
to get in there to see him. So he decided to go ahead and branch out and start these heal clinics. Now I think there's 3 of them, and the plan is to have 200 open by 2022 across the United States. And the idea of that is, and so with these adapt events that he's been doing, like the one he did in Tampa, he's going out to these cities and they're setting up these groups, keto groups, locally in each place, so people can help each other. And they're also, you know, talking about their heal clinics too. Hey, you know, this stuff is coming. Here's a place where people can go and they can get health care. I mean, for one thing, they definitely treat type 2 diabetes and obesity, but they'll treat even more than that. But that's where their focus is. And
Sure.
for a lot of people, instead of paying huge amounts of health care, they can be a member of this for $75 a month and have unlimited visits, you know, whether it be online, mostly online, but there you can go into the clinic as well. And again, part of that philosophy is if you take care of the type 2 diabetes, the inflammation, you've probably taken care of the core of most of our chronic disease.
Right.
And so it's why it's a big deal. So yeah, the minimum investment was $480. I'm like, I can do that. I think that makes sense. And we can help grow this. And I think Dr. Stephen Finney with Verta Health has something similar. So these are like these you know, grassroots groups of medical doctors that are starting to branch out and be able to get healthcare out to Americans. And I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I think Dr. Tro Kalajian did the same thing.
Yeah.
He opened up a clinic. I think he funded it himself. So.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a member of our Keto for Autism group. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, he joined. Matter of fact, he was one of the ones that stuck out there when I said, "Hey, would anybody interested?" And he said, "Yeah." So he's another resource that we have.
Excellent.
So I mean, yeah, this is exciting stuff. So, and also in the Keto for Autoimmune, I have Dr. Abby Campbell, and she's a naturopath up in North Carolina, and I'm supposed to do an interview with her pretty soon too. So we have lots of people, medical professionals that are on board with this, which is, you know, I'm sure that's probably never been a thing before in the keto world, where we've had that kind of support. We've always been kind of, well, I say I wasn't a member, but those people that were the pioneers were having to do it by themselves, right? So I feel proud to be part of a situation where that's growing and changing.
Yeah, Autistic Carnivore has kind of attracted quite a few clinicians who are just like really curious. They're like, "Hey, is this a real thing? Yeah, can I use this at work for my patients?" You know, so.
Well, you know what? That's a comment that Dr. Westman said. He said, you know, your keto for autoimmune disease, I would like to use that, you know, as a test case for our own practice. So I will be in touch with you. I'm like, okay, I'm all for it. I mean, I think that these could become case studies for future things, and I think that would be that'd be great because people are so thankful and appreciative of how their life has been turned around. I mean, they thank me a lot. I'm like, hey, I'm just a person. You have to listen to this. You have to execute. All I can do is put this information out there. You know, I didn't save your life. You saved your own life. I saved my own life first, right? It's like you just like when you go on the airline and they tell you, hey, grab the air mask for yourself first. you have to take care of your own needs first before you can help the rest of your family, and then you can help those around you. And that's exactly what I look at this. This is that butterfly effect that I'm seeing. At first it started with me, then with my wife, then my immediate family, and then friends, and then my high school friends, and then people I haven't seen in years are taking notice. My coworkers, I probably have, I think, 8 coworkers right now that are doing keto with me. Just cause, right? I'm not having to preach a damn thing. I'm just living, and they take notice. And then, yeah, here's a card. Here's my website where you can go check this stuff out. And then, they catch on and move on. So we flick a little bit and we get a little bit, but next thing you know, we pick a big fleck of paint off, and you're making a huge impact without even realizing.
Yeah, it's just about getting that content out there for people who are interested in it, because it's not really much point in trying to sell people on the idea. It's the people that are looking for something, the people that are really suffering and tired of paying for medication and tired of giving up their life to be sick. And they're like, well, I can put down the Twinkie and pick up the bacon if that's all I got to try. I could do that for a month, right?
Yeah. I mean, but it sounds too good to be true, though, too, right? I mean, and I can see that. So I'm a member of a couple of autoimmune Facebook groups as well, right? So I'm on one for ankylosing spondylitis, and it's they pretty much give me free will. I can say what I want and post what I want. I don't sell it, though, right? To your point, I will usually kind of wait for a post to come up where somebody says, "Hey, has anybody had any luck, changing their diet with their symptoms?" And it's like, oh, well, as a matter of fact, I'm glad you asked. By the way, here's my actual doctor's report. It shows me in remission. And it shows that I was on Humira and methotrexate. I'm on no medications. So having that kind of ammunition ready to talk and say, and then they say, well, hey, how did you do that? And I don't even really say keto at first. I say, no sugar, no grains, right? No sugar, no grains, and eating real food, no processed foods. So then that leads them down the path of, well, hey, I want to know more. And like, okay, well, hey, we have a Facebook group called Keto for Autoimmune that you guys can come check out, and we can give you resources and those type of things. And that is probably the most natural way that I've had success of pulling people in. Because it's a closed group, people can't find it so easy. So I have to kind of, do just mild conversational advertising like that. And then, of course, you'll see some people say, oh, that's just too good to be true. It's all, that can't be. But look, do you see my results here? This is not just, placebo here, because I actually have the documented evidence that I had been diagnosed for 17 years with ankylosing spondylitis, and now I'm in remission. Again, I'm not saying it's a cure. I'm just saying that my symptoms are not there anymore. I can function as a normal human, which was not possible before. And so, people are going to be people, and of course, then it'll be, oh, well, you need to do it with all plants. And, okay, if that works for you, I think that's great. You go ahead and do that. But I'm over here when it fails, because chances are you're going to go that path. Like most of us have, most people do. They go because we get sold on plant-based is the right way to go, which, in hindsight, that just doesn't make any sense. We're humans, we're carnivores, but okay. But that's the path that people will take. And I think sometimes that you have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't get better, or maybe it gets worse. At least I've planted a seed, and then go back and say, okay, well, let me go back and check out that keto guy and see if what he has works. Because I make darn sure not to make any promises, right?
Sure.
I'm not going to promise that your pain's going to go away, but what I can promise you is that your insulin and your blood glucose are going to stabilize, and that your inflammation is more than likely going to secede. You're going to feel better, and you are going to lose a few pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And that all by itself is going to help you feel better. Now, whether you fully go into remission or not, I can't control that. But what I can help you control is the elephant in the room, of you're being overweight, you're being obese, and you're being your type 2 diabetes. Those are the things that we can help you with. And oh, by the way, you're probably going to get some help too, but I'm not going to guarantee that. It does help a lot of people. So, and I'm sure you have the same thing in the autism world, right? I mean, not everybody's going to be miraculously. I couldn't talk yesterday, and now I'm speaking. The Gettysburg Address. It's just not something that level of change is going to happen for everybody.
Yeah, I think for the most part, with the adults who can make the change and there's good compliance, that they experience a drastic turnaround. Like you said, they lose weight, they feel better, their mood's better, they're more social, they have less anxiety. There's a lot of comorbid conditions that tend to go along with it, and those tend to get better as well. And I think the tough part is, the parents that have kids that are in pretty rough shape and they have a hard time getting them to eat anything. And then you take their Cheerios or their fish crackers or whatever away, and it's transitioning them over is really the big challenge. But I don't know of anybody outside of there's one guy in the group that's been having digestive issues when he tries to transition over to carnivore, but that's the only one that stands out, really.
Yeah. I've had a few people that have had the keto rash, not the keto crotch, but the keto rash. And that's one of the things, and it seems to clear up after a couple of weeks. But I think that's about the worst I've seen. Again, I'm not, I'm like 8 months in, so I've not had ultimate experience. Haven't even heard anybody complain about kidney stones, which I was expecting to hear more of that, but really haven't. But I think part of it may be is I think I headed that off, right? So I put out some videos early that Dr. Annette Bosworth had done, talking about keto and kidney stones and why you get them. And it's usually due to either current or prior episodes of dehydration for the most part. And of course, those oxalates, right? So the thing is that if people can stay hydrated, they're much less likely to get the kidney stones. And that's actually part of the Dr. Westman protocol also. I mean, even the early Atkins would recommend drinking lots of water. So that's, I think as long as people kind of pay attention to that, they keep, if they need to take some maybe milk of magnesia or something like that to help with their leg cramps, or drink, I think Dr. Westman recommends maybe some bouillon or something like that. And as you're transitioning, keep the salts in and keep hydrated. It seems like the kidney stones are much less common.
Yeah, when people are cut out the carbs and they start dumping all that sodium and water their body had stored up, they do run the risk of a little dehydration, especially at that point.
Yeah, you definitely got to drink. And talk about the other thing about the philosophy of what we're doing. It's that real food. So one of the things that we highly discourage in our groups is the keto products, the snacks, those type of things, because they're just processed food, right? You put keto branding on a processed food, processed poison is still a processed poison. And I think that's part of it as well, is just making sure that people focus on eating real food, the real meats, the real vegetables. And you can hear my dog drinking her water in the background now.
Yeah, I've got one sitting right behind me chewing on her toenails.
Yeah, I've got 3 of them here. They're awesome, but this one's just a puppy. She's I think 6 months old, and she's all right. But yeah, so that's the big thing is that real food, and so I think if people eat real food, they stay hydrated, and make sure they don't mess up on their electrolytes. Seem to be okay. You get a little bit, a few of them might complain about a little bit the keto flu or whatever, but it's like just just keep. That's what Dr. Westman does. Drink a couple cups of bouillon a day. And if you're feeling leg cramps, he says the easiest thing to do is just a teaspoon of milk of magnesia once a day, for 7 days. And that seems to be the trick. And that does the thing. Or some people, maybe they have a packet of mustard they keep by their bed and they just take that mustard and, or pickle juice. I mean, there's little tricks that people can do to get through these things. It sure is pretty minor. I've not really seen anybody that I have yet to see anybody in our group say I couldn't do it because of a health problem. I've seen people say I just can't give up my donuts. I've had people say I need my pizza, but I can't think of a single person that said that there was a major health problem that prevented them from being able to be successful.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, and it's really I tell people to prioritize a protein, right? You're going to have these cravings, especially as your first. I mean, you did keto for a while, but people as they first transition into keto from SAD, I know what I was doing. I was looking for bread replacements, potato replacements, and because there's just so much a part of your diet, and the rice replacements that you do that. Okay, well, mashed cauliflower works for a while. I can make the mug bread, and it kind of tastes like, kind of reminds me of bread a little bit. It's really not bread, but it kind of works until you get about 2 months into it, and then all of a sudden that craving disappears, right? Okay, well, I guess I don't really need potatoes anymore. I don't really need bread anymore.
Yeah,
I'll just eat more meat. But I also recognize that it's tough for people to go from the standard American diet to keto.
Yeah.
It's not. It's like a faded memory for me now because I've been doing it for a while.
Right.
But I do vaguely remember going through that process of, oh my gosh, I have to have a replacement food, or I'm just not going to be able to do this. And so that's kind of why we try to help out people. Just hang in there. I've invented the hamburger hack, which is like you're starting to feel a craving for a sweet. Go to your freezer, go pull out a hamburger patty and cook it and smell it, get the aroma, put salt and pepper on it and whatever seasonings you want, and absorb that, make that part of the experience, and then eat that one. If you need to eat 2 of them, do it, but just go ahead and eat that and let savory replace sweet. And that seems to work for a lot of people.
Excellent. Sounds like some good advice.
Yeah, those are the things that I had to do because I love my sweets. There was something that was very challenging for me.
Yeah, for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. And that's when people tell me like I could never do that. I look at them and I go, "You just don't know."
I hear that all the time too.
Right? I mean, I've been there, man. I know exactly what you're saying, and I
could never give up bread.
I can never give up bread. That's right.
Bread.
Well, okay. Do you like that bread more than your pain? I mean, that's kind of how I have to that's how I put it in my own mind, right? To me, that stuff's poison, right? It's
Sure.
a good tasting poison. So I don't want to drink bleach and I don't want to eat that bread. It's there to me, they're exactly the same thing.
Yeah, there's always metformin.
Yeah, metformin. I don't miss that at all. But
there's always some insulin to push, man.
Yeah, don't miss it. That to me, I don't know if you've seen the statistics on how much we're spending on diabetes alone, and the projections over the next 20 years.
I can't keep up. Every time I try and look up the numbers, they start skyrocketing again.
Right. I mean, so we have this healthcare crisis. If we just resolve the insulin crisis and the inflammation crisis, I know the pharmaceutical companies won't be happy about that, but we've resolved the problem. We've taken care of the elephant in the room, which is, insulin resistance and all the pharmaceuticals that were built on top of it to support all the related symptoms. Saving lives.
Yeah, I think that the numbers are somewhere roughly around half of the entire population of the planet is pre-diabetic or diabetic now.
Yeah, I think the United States is 65% in that range, and that's if you just measure glucose. If you were to go to measure insulin, I'm sure it'd be much higher, because that's the one thing that people just don't think about. I mean, I know they go hand in hand, right? I mean, obviously, if you have a spike in glucose, your insulin's going to spike too. But what we always forget about is you could actually have a normal blood glucose level, but still have raging insulin, because your insulin is just fighting really hard to keep it normal, and you're registering because it's keeping it in check. But that's just doing nothing but wearing out your pancreas, right? Eventually, I don't know this for a fact, but my opinion is that's probably what leads to pancreatic cancer, when you just worn your pancreas out and it can't do it anymore.
Yeah, and there's some theories about fat accumulation in the pancreas too. They get a little bit of that, a little extra fat. I mean, it's a tiny amount in there, and then the pancreas starts malfunctioning.
Yeah, you can't keep up. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, and I think again, I'm still facing that, right? I'm still have normal blood glucose, but my last time I checked, of course, that's a one minute in time, right? Or 1 second when they did that test. So I'm going to continue having that test done to see if that trends down. I hope it does. There's no reason it wouldn't, but until I see it actually do it, I can't say that it has. Don't want to make any claims, but a lot of people will just check their blood glucose and feel, okay, well, I'm doing great, but that's not necessarily the case. You could definitely be in a lot of trouble otherwise.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a good chat. I don't know exactly how long we've been going, but we've been going for a while. We should
a little over an hour, it looks like. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like wrapping it up.
Yeah. Sounds great, man. Sounds great.
I think it was a very productive discussion. I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it and get some value out of it.
Well, I hope so. And I would appreciate it. When you get this posted, I'll go ahead and say it and share it on our sites as well. But you guys can find us at we're on YouTube or on KetoMojoGogo. We post a lot of stuff out there, a lot of things that we do, a lot of interactions that we have, and we also, when we go travel around, we like to do videos on site too. Like we did a few weeks ago, we did one in Tarpon Springs, Florida. We did that one especially for our friends Greek Goes Keto, because they were it's a big Greek community there. So it's a lot of things we like to have fun there and post those things. And we have, again, our Facebook groups. We have Keto for Autoimmune Diseases, Keto for Autism, and the KetoMojoGogo groups. So if you guys need any support as far as weight loss or autoimmune and any additional interactions you guys want on the autism side, feel free to join us. We are very supportive groups. And we don't know all the answers. All we want to do is help point you in the right direction.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll get links from you and stuff. I'll make sure and put them in the show notes.
All right, bud. Sounds great. Well, all right. Well, you have a great time out there on the left coast, and we'll chat with you later.
All right, man. Thanks for your time.
All right. Take care, bud.
See you online.